What's going on, guys? T206’s Tobacco Cards back again with another video. This video is not one that I had on the agenda to do, but with the recent comments and feedback and messages I've gotten about my previous videos, it seemed like there were a decent amount of people who want to get into these cards but just don't know too much about them or really how to collect them. So I figured this would be a good video to do, to just try to help those people out, be informative. And I think the people that do actively collect these will find this video, cool and informative too as well. So it's going to be my top 5 reasons why I personally collect these T206’s. And then I do have an honorable mention that didn't quite make the cut in my top 5, but still worth mentioning. So that honorable mention is going to be how available these cards are. So you can find these cards really anywhere. eBay obviously being probably number 1, but I find them in Facebook groups, Facebook Marketplace, Net54. They're all over the place. So, which is kind of, if you're new to these, you would think with as old as they are that they're probably very rare, but that's just not simply the case as of today. So if you want to add one to your collection, you can still easily find one. But now getting into my personal top 5 of why I collect them. So number 1 is going to be how old they are. So I'm pretty much a history buff, so when you think about how old these cards are, I think as of now they're around 115 years old. When you think of that and just how this amount of T206's have survived over 115 years is really crazy. And when you break it down even further, just there's no telling who owned these cards at a certain point in time. And just how their journey on how they ended up in my hands. It's really surreal when you think about it and break it down like that. I've mentioned before, the cards that have writing on them and stuff like that. Like, I know they don't grade well, but that stuff is just cool to me because you don't really know who could have wrote that or why they wrote it. So just the historical aspect of these cards and how old they are is my number 1 reason. So moving into number 2 is going to be how many different ways there are to collect this set. So with this set being famously known as the Monster, 524 cards, there are so many different ways you can break this set down and collect it to your liking. So, I mean, you could chase all 524, you could go just for the Hall of Famers, which would be a little bit pricey, but you could go just for the Southern Leaguers, you could collect a certain team, you could collect, if you have one specific player that you really like and find interesting out of this set, you can collect that one player and all of its different back variations. You can go after all the backs. My personal way of collecting this set is a little bit different. It's no set subset or anything, but it's kind of one that I created myself. So the way I'm doing it is I have found pretty much all the players with the most interesting stories and interesting things that they've contributed to the game, and that's how I'm collecting it. And on the side of that, I do collect the really hard to find Southern Leaguers as well. So mine is a little bit different compared to some of the subsets out there that you can collect, but that's just kind of what I'm saying. The ways you can collect it are almost endless. So that's my number 2. And then that kind of segues into my number 3 pretty perfectly, the stories that are behind these players. So with there being the amount of players that there are in this set, you're going to find some very interesting stories about these guys, and some things that they've implemented to the game and the way it's played today. Like, just for example, Roger Bresnahan right there was beneficial in inventing the shin guards for catcher's gear. You've got Ed Abaticio down there. He was the first Italian player to ever play in the major leagues. You've got Hal Chase right there. Obviously considered as probably the best first baseman ever, but never made it to the Hall of Fame because of his gambling antics. And then you've got all the guys that were involved in the Black Sox scandal, like Bill Burns back there, and Chick Gandil, Eddie Saccott. So I have just found out some very interesting stories about some of the guys that are in this set. So that is my number 3. And moving into number 4 is that this set is still affordable for the most part today. Now, when I say that, I'm kind of just mainly talking about the commons. So when you scour eBay and Net54 and Facebook, You can pick up a graded common in a decent grade, or even raw that's in good condition for under $100. But now when you get into the Southern Leaguers and the Hall of Famers, obviously you're going to be splurging a little bit more on those, just because they're not as readily available, especially the Southern Leaguers, because they're just naturally more rare to begin with, because those Southern Leaguers were only produced in the southern portion of the United States. So that makes them more rare already. But obviously the Hall of Famers, with them being in the Hall of Fame, they're naturally going to be more expensive as well. But if you just want to add a T206 to your collection and you don't care who it is, you can go pick up a common for pretty cheap. So that's my number 4. And then lastly, my number 5, and probably my favorite one on my list, is I view this set as an investment opportunity. So I believe these cards are going to do nothing but increase in value over time. Especially when you compare it to the modern stuff that I know a bunch of collectors and kids are into today. A lot of that modern stuff is very reliant on how those players pan out as far as their careers. So it's like with the rookies specifically, if they end up being a bust, their card value is just going to tank. But these guys in this set have done it already. And this set nowadays is just becoming a historical artifact at this point. So these things are going to do nothing but increase in value, in my opinion. So I view it as almost an investment opportunity, especially when you look at the Southern Leaguers and the Hall of Famers. Those will increase a little bit more rapidly than I think the commons will, but even the commons, I still do believe those will slowly increase as the years go on. So that is my top 5 reasons why I collect the T206 set. Like I said, this video was not something that I had on my agenda to do, but with the recent outreach, I figured it would be something that's informative to people who don't quite know about this set and sort of the pre-war stuff. So I hope y'all found this informative, and even the guys that do collect this set actively, I hope y'all enjoyed it and maybe found out something. But I appreciate y'all tuning in. My next video should definitely be that SGC grading prediction video. I definitely got to get that out. I got to get those cards out to SGC. So stay tuned for that one. I appreciate y'all tuning into this one, and thanks. Peace.